हेलो जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम बच्चों। मेरी आवाज़ आ रही है? स्क्रीन चल रही है ना? ओके जी। ये हमारे फिर दो एक छोटे छोटे टॉपिक हैं जो आज हम करेंगे, जिसमें सबसे पहले है ऑटोइम्यून हेपेटाइटिस, autoimmune hepatitis, then Wilson disease, and if we have time, then we will discuss little about the acid-base balance. ओके फाइन। बेटा आज आप लोगों को स्क्रीन नज़र आ रही है? Okay, Ji. The autoimmune hepatitis, it is a chronic hepatitis of usually an unknown etiology, can progress to the cirrhosis if it is left untreated. And even if you see most of the patients which reported have already been suffering from the cirrhosis. The characteristics include presence of autoantibodies against a large number of the autoantibodies against the liver parenchyma, evidence of hepatitis interface being on characteristic on the histology, elevation of the serum globulin levels, and then continuing or unresolving hepatocellular inflammation and the necrosis are there. Okay. Next is the other names for this hepatitis is active chronic hepatitis or chronic active hepatitis, chronic aggressive hepatitis, lymphoid hepatitis, plasma cell hepatitis, autoimmune chronic liver active hepatitis. These are the other names which are used for the autoimmune hepatitis as well. Then the diagnosis of autoimmune hepatitis usually requires the exclusion of all the other causes of chronic liver disease, which can mimic the autoimmune hepatitis, like Wilson disease, chronic viral hepatitis, drug-induced liver damage, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and immune cholangiopathy of the primary biliary cirrhosis, and primary biliary cholangitis. These are all should be excluded before going into the diagnosis of the acute viral hepatitis. Frequently, it is more common into the North American the region, and it is responsible for 5.6% of the liver transplantation done in USA. The prevalence is greater among the European white persons compared to the other ethnicity. Japanese have a very low incidence of active hepatitis. The histopathological feature which suggests that it is an autoimmune pathogenesis is histopathological lesion composed of cytotoxic T cells and the plasma cell. There are the number of the circulating antibodies which are present into the body, and then there is hyperglobulinemia. And other autoimmune diseases are usually also associated with autoimmune hepatitis like thyroiditis, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune hemolytic anemia, ulcerative colitis, membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis, diabetes mellitus, celiac disease, and Sjogren's syndrome. These are all can present with autoimmune hepatitis, or the autoimmune hepatitis can present with any of these autoimmune disease. Histocompatibility haplocytes associations are also there, which suggest the autoimmune etiology. Response to steroid and immunosuppressive drugs is very good. Exact pathogenesis usually is not known. The predisposing to the autoimmunity is inherited, whereas the liver specificity of this injury is triggered by environmental factor, like the different type of the chemicals. Sometimes the drugs like monocyclines or viral antiviral drugs can also cause the autoimmune hepatitis. Genetic predisposition is also there. HLA, the group B1, B8, DR3, and DR4 are responsible for these type of the infection. Cell-mediated immune attack is directed against the liver cell. CD4 lymphocytes are capable of becoming sensitized to the hepatocyte membrane protein and then destroy the liver cell. Humoral immunity play a role in extrahepatic usually manifestation like arthritis, vasculitis, glomerulonephritis, and immune complex mediated deposit and activation can lead to the different diseases. The symptoms are usually patient presented with, rather than acute hepatitis, they presented with chronic active hepatitis, or sometimes may present with cirrhosis. And the same common symptoms are like the cirrhosis, fatigue, jaundice, upper abdominal discomfort, pruritus. Sometimes, most of the time, the patient is asymptomatic or may present with a little bit anorexia, myalgia, repeated diarrhea, Cushingite phases, and sometimes the patient may present with unexplained fever. Physical signs again are those of the chronic active hepatitis like hepatomegaly, jaundice, spider angioma, concurrent immune disease, splenomegaly. Sometimes they present with ascites and encephalopathy. Laboratory features are there are the large number of the antibodies, autoantibodies that can be present into the blood of the patient, and we are going to discuss all of these antibodies individually in the coming slides. Okay. Hashimoto thyroiditis and other thyroid abnormality like the myxedemia and thyrotoxicosis are associated with this condition. Similarly, the endocrinal changes like Cushingite feature, acne, and hirsutism can occur, and it occurs due to the because the liver is unable to detoxify the different type of the estrogenic and the cortisol and the other endocrinal secretions present there. Pulmonary changes like pleurisy and transitory pulmonary infiltrate and collapse can occur. Acute and recurrent polyarthritis of the different joint can occur. The mild anemia, leukopenia, thrombocytopenia are also associated with this disease. Okay, the different antibodies which are present or detected in these patients are the ANA or anti-smooth muscle antibody, SMA, anti-liver kidney microsome antibodies. These are called as anti-LKM antibodies or anti-SLAM antibodies. These are the liver antigen antibodies that can be present, and immunological immunoglobulin G levels are usually very high. Histology usually are very typical, which tells that the patient is having the autoimmune disease. The viral markers are usually not present, so this is done to exclude the hepatitis infection of the liver. And then after the exclusion of all the other diseases, the diagnosis of autoimmune hepatitis is made. Two types of the autoimmune hepatitis are there. Previously, it was two types, that is the type 1 and the type 2 only. And based upon the different type of the antibodies present, and now third type is also proposed, which has been abundant and considered a more severe type of the, and it is the third type is usually previously categorized as type 1 only, but now it is considered as a severe type of the severe form of the type 1, and it is called as type 3. Anti-SLA is found in both the type 1 and the type 2 and direct an indicator of severe disease and poor outcome usually. Anti-SLA antibodies. Classically, it occurs into the young female, type 1 autoimmune hepatitis. ANA anti-smooth muscle antibodies are usually positive. ASM antibodies are usually present. Titers are usually 1 into 100. 10% will also have soluble liver antigen. And if the patient is having SLA antibodies, the disease is more severe and with bad prognosis compared to the other antibodies. Other antibodies can also be present like the anti-DNA antibody, Pianka antibody, anti-mitochondrial antibody, anti-actin antibody, cytoskeleton antibody, nuclear envelope protein, lamine LNC antibodies, and the membrane sulfatides antibodies can also be present. Anti-actin antibody have greater specificity for the type 1 autoimmune antibody. Bimodial age distribution are there, that is, it is more common in the 10 to 20 years of the age and then 45 to 70. Mostly the autoimmune diseases are more common into the female compared to the male, so it is also 3.6 to 1 ratio. In case of autoimmune hepatitis, HLA DR3 and DR4 associated with this disease associated with extrahepatic manifestation, that is 38%, autoimmune thyroiditis 12%, grave disease in 6%, and chronic ulcerative colitis can also be associated with the disease. Less common, which can present with the autoimmune hepatitis, are the rheumatoid arthritis, pernicious anemia, systemic sclerosis, ITP, SLE, positive hemolytic anemia, leukocytoclastic vasculitis, and erythema nodosum. 40% may present with acute onset of the symptoms similar to toxic hepatitis or acute viral hepatitis. Type 2 autoimmune hepatitis is usually seen into the younger children, that is 2 to 14 years, compared to the type 1 autoimmune hepatitis, which is more common into the adolescent kids. Actually, DR1 and DB1 or DQB1 are usually associated. There is presence of the liver kidney microsomal antibody, that is anti-KLM1 antibodies directed against the cytochrome P450 is seen mostly in this patient. Anti-liver cytosol antibodies is also present. Concurrent autoimmune diseases like the diabetes mellitus, vitiligo, thyroiditis can be present in these patients. Acute or fulminant presentation is usually common in the type 2 autoimmune hepatitis, whereas type 3 autoimmune hepatitis is now considered as the severe form of type 1 hepatitis. Antibodies to soluble liver antigen or liver pancreas antigen is present in there. There is lack of ANA and anti-KLM1 antibodies. It is more in the female compared to the occurring into the male. Autoantibodies which are present into the immune hepatitis, as I have already discussed, because these are very important in making the diagnosis, are like ANA antibodies, SMA antibodies, smooth muscle, these are called as smooth muscle antibodies, KLM antibodies, SLA antibodies, KLM2 type antibodies, KLM3 antibodies. Autoimmune hepatitis, the other variant form of the variant of the autoimmune hepatitis are the autoimmune hepatitis with associated primary biliary cirrhosis, autoimmune hepatitis with associated primary sclerosing cholangitis, then autoimmune hepatitis with cholestatic feature, autoimmune antibody negative autoimmune hepatitis is also sometime present. Autoimmune hepatitis with primary biliary cirrhosis is a condition in which, along with the feature of the autoimmune hepatitis, patient also have anti-mitochondrial antibodies. Histological features of cholangitis and of bile duct loss are also present in addition to the interface hepatitis of autoimmune hepatitis. The treatment with prednisolone is done if alkaline phosphatase is less than 2 the twice than the upper normal limit. The treatment with prednisolone and is done if the patient is having this disease. Similarly, the autoimmune hepatitis with primary sclerosing cholangitis, along with the feature of the autoimmune hepatitis, the patient is also have the cholangiographic changes on the biopsy. Inflammatory by the mostly this sclerosing cholangitis, the patient is also associated with inflammatory bowel disease is there. Antimitochondrial antibodies are absent in this condition, but the histological feature on the liver biopsy shows the cholangitis and cholestasis. The treatment include usually the prednisolones are given in this condition. Autoimmune hepatitis with cholestatic feature. In this condition, the patient is also having the anti-nuclear antibody and anti-smooth muscle antibodies. Histological feature, cholangitis is present and cholestasis is present there. No inflammatory bowel disease is present in this condition compared to the previous cholangitis hepatitis. And absence of antimicrobial antibody and cholangiographic changes are there. Treatment is usually prednisolone and is given. Autoantibody negative autoimmune hepatitis, 13% of the chronic hepatitis are of unknown cause, satisfy criteria of the autoimmune hepatitis, but there is no characteristic autoantibody present there. Commonly, it is called as a cryptogenic chronic hepatitis. Usually, it occurs into the female. Frequency of other immunological diseases are present. Histological feature and land finding are similar to the autoimmune hepatitis, but the no autoantibodies are detected into the serum, and these are usually associated with the HLA-B8 and DR3 mutations, and the response to the treatment with the glucocorticoid is remarkable. Okay, Ji. The different differential diagnoses which come into the mind, which are to be kept along with the autoimmune hepatitis, are primary biliary cirrhosis, post-necrotic cryptogenic cirrhosis, primary sclerosing cholangitis, acute viral hepatitis, chronic viral hepatitis, Wilson disease, alcoholic hepatitis, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and the disease. That these are all can present with the cirrhosis. So we have to differentiate it from the autoimmune antibody. Okay, the treatment option or absolute indication for the treatment are the capacity capacitating symptoms, and the relentless clinical progression. Serum AS and ALT more than tenfold than the upper limit. If AST and ALT level are more than fivefold the upper limit of the normal with gamma globin, twofold upper limit of the normal. And there is also histological finding which suggests that the patient is having the active hepatitis. Relative implication are when the patient is having the mild symptom and serum AST level is 3 to 9.9 fold, then the upper normal limit, and AST is 5 fold above the normal limit. Interface hepatitis on the histology, then relative indication of the starting the treatment is there. The treatment when it is not indicated into the patient which are asymptomatic without any evidence of hepatic involvement, when the serum AST level is only 3-fold the upper normal limit. And if the patient is having burnout or inactive cirrhosis has developed, the patient is not then benefited from the therapy, and it only increases the side effect of the therapy and the patient problem. So these patients are not put on the treatment who have well developed cirrhosis or there. The portal hypertension, if the patient develop the portal hypertension and has the repeated cirrhosis, so the steroids, mainly we give the steroid in autoimmune disease. So these are the cases where the steroid it cannot be given safely to the patient. So the patient who are repeatedly have varicella bleed, no treatment is indicated in these patients. And then severe pre-treatment cytopenia is also a contraindication or for the starting the treatment. Similarly, the brittle diabetes, psychosis, osteoporosis, uncontrolled hypertension, these are all the things which if present into the patient, the steroid therapy cannot be started in these patients. Previous intolerance to azathioprine or prednisolone if present, then the treatment is not started. Mainstay of the treatment is usually the corticosteroid therapy. Although some advocate the use of prednisolone, the prednisolone is just as effective and favorable by most of the authorities. Prednisolone is usually given 60 milligram orally daily with a tapering dose of 30 milligram at 4th week of the treatment, and then maintenance of 20 milligram daily till the end point. This is the regime in which only the prednisolone is given to the patient and none other disease modifying drug is given. The reason for prednisolone only is if the patient is having the severe cytopenia, malignancy, or if the patient is having osteoporosis or the bone disease already there. Then there is another therapy which is called as combination immunosuppressive therapy, in which the prednisolone is given to the patient, and along with the prednisolone, the azathioprine is also given to the patient. And then it is this is the regime which is followed: combination therapy, prednisolone and azathioprine is given. The prednisolone is given 30 milligram per kg for the first week, then is given the 20 milligram in the next week, then 15 milligram is given for the 2 weeks onward, and 10 milligram is then given until the end point when the patient is having the remission is achieved. Azathioprine is given 50 milligram until the end point in a single dose. Drug therapies, in the single drug therapy only the prednisolone is given in a higher doses, that is 60 milligram per kg one dose, and it is gradually tapered till the patient comes to a level of 20 milligram, and this 20 milligram per kg of steroid is then continued until the end of the disease. There are the large amount of the corticosteroid and azathioprine side effect which can occur into the patient. The corticosteroid side effect are the cosmetic effect like alopecia, dorsal bump, facial abnormality, rounding, hirsutism, stria, weight gain. And the 80% of the patient after the 2 year of the treatment develop these kind of the side effect. The other severe side effect which can be present, which may require the avoidance of these corticosteroid are the cataract, diabetes mellitus, emotional instability, hypertension, headache, osteopenia. These can be present, and the rare side effect are the malignancy, opportunistic infection, and pancreatitis can occur. The azathioprine related side effect which occur in the 46% of the patient is cytopenia, in which the patient is having a plastic type anemia. They can have arthralgia, fever, nausea, vomiting, and the bone marrow suppression sometimes can occur. The patient undergoing azathioprine therapy should have blood leukocyte and platelet count to be done every a few months, or usually once every 6 months is done. Then the treatment endpoint is usually when the patient goes into the remission, or if there is the treatment failure into the patient, when the patient is having incomplete response, patient is having the relapses or the drug toxicity. These are all the indication that the patient is that the treatment should be discontinued into the patient. The remission is said when the patient has absence of the symptoms, and in the lab diagnosis shows there is no active inflammation there, and the histological improvement shows that the liver echo texture is normal. For this, we give an liver tissue is examined before the drug starting of the drug, and and then before the drug withdrawal, the liver biopsy is done. And if there is 50% improvement into the condition, it is considered that the patient is in the remission. ओके बच्चों, अब हम एक दूसरा लेक्चर पढ़ेंगे इसके साथ। जी बच्चों, अब हमारे पास एक छोटा सा एक और टॉपिक है जिसे कहते हैं विल्सन डिजीज। हम ये देखेंगे कि ये क्या होती है। Wilson's disease was first described by a British neurologist who first described this disease in 1912. Wilson's disease is inherited autosomal recessive disease. It is only a single abnormal copy of the gene. If it is present, it does not manifest the disease because it is autosomal recessive, and the patient should have a double copy of this gene, that is homozygous for this gene, and then this disease will be present into the patient. Wilson disease is a multi-system disorder, and it involves the liver, brain, eyes, blood, kidney, and endocrinal glands as well. This is a picture which shows the involvement of the different systems into the Wilson disease. The Wilson disease primarily affects the liver and causes the hepatomegaly, jaundice, acute hepatitis, fulminant hepatic failure, portal hypertension, bleeding, varices, and the cirrhosis. Whereas on the bones, it causes the arthritis and the rickets, and into the hematological system it causes the hemolysis. In the central nervous system, the second most common presentation of the Wilson disease is disorientation in the school performance, behavior changes, in coordination in the handwriting, resting and intention tremor, dystonia, dysarthria, excessive salivation, mask like faces, and the dysphagia can be there. In the eye, there is Kasser ring is present. These are called as KF rings. In the cardiac manifestation, it presents with cardiomegaly, and the renal system, it proximal renal tubular dysfunction is very common. This abnormal or the malfunctioning of the gene usually result in the inability of the biliary copper excretion or the decreased biliary copper excretion in from the liver. So the result is that there is a large amount of the copper is accumulated in the cytosol of the hepatocyte, and when these liver cells are overloaded with this copper is redistributed to the other parts of the brain, including the brain, kidney, and all the other parts of the body, and where these high amount of the copper is toxic, and it inhibit the enzymatic process and the local injury, and also causes the local injury. It lead to the degenerating of the cells into the brain, liver, and that is the reason for the formation of the KF ring into the cornea as well. In the liver, it leads to the progressive parenchymal damage, fibrosis, and the cirrhosis. And usually these patients in the younger age are presented with the hepatic manifestation rather than the neurological manifestation. If you see in this patient, there is deposition of the copper on around the circle of the eye. It is called as KF rings. This is on the slit lamp examination of the eye showing the KF ring. Usually the Wilson disease can be present in as any type of the liver disease. Usually it present as chronic liver hepatitis in the children which are less than 5 years of the age. Wilson hepatitis usually increase asymptomatic, can range from the asymptomatic hepatomegaly with or without splenomegaly to subacute or chronic hepatitis. Fulminant hepatic failure can also can occur in the few patients. The liver cirrhosis with portal hypertension, ascites, edema, and the variceal bleeding. Mostly the patient present with this presentation. There can be the other effect of the hepatic dysfunction as well on the patient. like the delayed puberty and coagulation defect into the patient. Sometimes the patient can present with psychiatric manifestation like depression, anxiety, and psychosis. Hematological manifestation are very common, especially into the female patient, and they present with womb-negative hemolytic anemia. And it is mostly related to the release of large amount of the copper from the damaged hepatocyte into the blood rather than any immune-mediated phenomena. Renal dysfunction is very common and it leads to the renal Fanconi syndrome with amino aciduria, glycosuria, phosphaturia, renal tubular acidosis, and progressive renal failure can occur. Unusual manifestation sometimes can also occur into the Wilson disease, especially if it involves the joints leading to the arthritis, cardiomyopathy, and endocrinopathy is also very common in the Wilson disease. The Wilson disease should also be kept in the differential diagnosis into the teenager and the young children whenever they present with any liver disease and the different scenario which are present and in which the Wilson disease should be considered is unexplained acute or chronic liver disease, neurological symptom of unknown cause, acute hemolysis, psychiatric issue, behavior changes, and the Fanconi syndrome. Now the laboratory as well as laboratory investigations are concerned, the सबसे important चीज इसमें जो आती है वो ceruloplasmin level है. That is a protein, that is a serum ceruloplasmin level. The serum ceruloplasmin is a protein which is required for binding with the copper. So the ceruloplasmin level is usually in the liver is maybe elevated in acute inflammation and in state of serum, then the serum copper level is seen. It is usually very high in the Wilson disease. Urinary copper excretion is then measured. It is normal is less than 40 microgram per day, and in patient with the Wilson disease, it is usually increased more than 100 microgram per day. And sometimes it can be up to 1000 microgram per day or more. And this urinary copper excretion is usually very much increased when the patient is given the copper chelating agent. Liver biopsy is done to see the copper content of the liver, and if this copper content of the liver are more than 10 microgram per gram of dry weight of the liver, the patient is considered to have the Wilson disease. Genetic counseling is usually done into the patients because it is an autosomal recessive disease, so the patient should not marry their children into uh, uh, the family, and all the other family member are also screened for presence of the Wilson disease, and it includes seeing the KF ring into the eye examination of to see the KF ring. Then the serum ceruloplasmin level is done, so urinary copper excretion is seen. If these results are abnormal or equivocal, liver biopsy should be carried out. Wilson disease is progressive and fatal, but effective treatment is available. And the simple thing is copper intake should be restricted to less than 1 milligram per kg, and the copper is present in the food like liver, shellfish, nuts, chocolates. These should be avoided. The copper content of drinking water should be less than 0.1 milligram per liter. It will be necessary to demineralize the water before taking. The most important thing is copper chelating agent is given. The copper chelating agent is D-penicillinamine. It helps to urinary excretion of the copper. It help to excrete the copper through the kidney. The best chelating agent is the penicillinamine again, and it is given in a dose of 20 milligram per kg per day. The patient with neurological manifestation, 10 to 50% of them will initially receive D-penicillinamine, but their symptoms may get worsen after the start of the treatment. Side effects of the D-penicillinamine are very high, and these are Gold-Wester syndrome. That is due to the hypersensitivity reaction. Then the systemic lupus erythematosus can occur, polymyositis can occur, aplastic anemia, nephrosis, deficiency of the element like zinc. That is why the patient with Wilson disease, when put on treatment, are given the supplementation with the zinc is given, and vitamin B6 deficiency can occur. For the patient who cannot tolerate the D-penicillinamine, the other choices are the triethylene, tetramine, and trihydrochloride is given in a 20 milligram per kg per day. Ammonium thiomolybdate is the new agent which can be used in the patient, especially the patient which has the neurological manifestation. But it also has a very high incidence of side effect like anemia, leukopenia, and thrombocytopenia. So the patient who are on tetraminomolyvidate, they should be monitored closely for the aplastic anemia. Zinc therapy is given along with because the penicillinamine also causes a deficiency of zinc into the patient. The liver transplantation is indicated for the patient with fulminant hepatic failure, decompensated cirrhosis. Liver transplantation is curative with survival rate of almost 90%. Uncomplicated patient of the Wilson disease usually die from the hepatic the hepatic usually by the hepatic failure, but the other neurological symptoms, renal and aplastic, and the hematological manifestation are also responsible for the bad prognosis in the patient. In asymptomatic patient, if they are identified initially, they should be put on the chelation therapy so they does not develop the liver or the other diseases. So it is very effective in this condition. ओके बच्चों, अब हमारे पास एक थोड़ा सा आप लोगों के लिए एक और चीज़ है जो आपने पढ़नी है. दैट इज एसिड बेस बैलेंस. इस लेक्चर में नया आपके लिए कुछ भी नहीं है. यू हैव लर्न मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स इन योर प्रीवियस क्लासेस in your first year and second year. So the acid base balance of the body, basically acid base balance is the regulation of the hydrogen ion. The more hydrogen ion, the more acidic is the solution and the lower is the pH. You all know that. So the acid base balance or the acidity or alkalinicity of the solution is measured by pH. So it's a simple definition in that. This is the normal range, survival range of acidosis and alkalosis into the body. The normal body arterial blood normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45, and the range which is called as the survival range in which the person can survive, if decreases below the 6.8 and the more than the 8 is the patient cannot survive or the withstand this much variation into the pH. So the patient is having a pH of that is almost neutral pH, that is 7.35 to 7.45. Below this is acidosis and above this pH is alkalosis. Okay, this is the normal arterial blood gases value. If you see the pH, that is 7.35 to 7.45, PaCO2 is 35 to 45, PaO2 is 70 to 100 millimeter of mercury, and saturation of oxygen is 93 to 98%, and HCO3 is 22 to 26 milliequivalent per liter, and base excess ranges from the -2 to +2 milliequivalent per liter. There are the multiple type of the acids in the body, and our body is basically prone to make the acids. There are the few volatile acids like carbon dioxide, fixed acid that occur due to the catabolism of the amino acid and the other nucleic acid and phospholipids. And then there come the organic acid. These are the byproduct of aerobic metabolism, anaerobic metabolism. During patient can have the organic acid during the starvation, diabetes, and the lactic acid and ketones. These are all the type of the acid that are present into the body. ओके जैसे आपको मैंने पहले बताया कि हमारी जो बॉडी है दैट इज प्रोन टू मेक द डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ द एसिड्स. ओके, then there come the compensating mechanism into the body. These compensating mechanism are called try to decrease the normal to the pH or near normal pH all the time into the body. These buffers either provide the hydrogen ion or they remove the hydrogen ion from the serum so that the patient will have the normal the pH. It includes the weak acids that can donate the hydrogen or the weak bases that can accept the hydrogen. So the different type of the buffer system which are present, compensations which are present are the buffer system, then respiratory regulation and the renal regulation. The different type of the buffer which are present are in the body are called as chemical buffer, chemical system, chemical buffer, and then the buffer at faster. These all the buffers which are present are bicarbonate, carbonic acid system, plasma protein, hemoglobin, and the phosphate. Then there come the after the buffer come the respiratory regulation. They help to maintain the pH of the blood by excreting volatile acid and then regulate the level of PaCO2 into the blood. The first of all, there comes a chemical buffer. When the chemical buffer fails, the respiratory regulation come into the action within minutes to hours, and their failure then result in the respiratory acidosis or the respiratory alkalosis. When the respiratory system also fails to maintain the pH, usually kidney come for the help. The kidney role is to maintain the plasma bicarbonate level. It has the most powerful buffering system into the body, but it usually starts within hours to days, not immediately when they are called upon, when there is a change into the pH, and the failure of the regulation by the kidney then result in the metabolic acidosis or the metabolic alkalosis. This is a graphical presentation of all of these. The first line of defense against the pH shift is chemical buffer. It includes the bicarbonate buffer, phosphate buffer, protein, plasma protein buffer system, whereas the second line of the defense in the pH is usually physiological buffers, respiratory mechanism, CO2 excretion, and then the renal mechanism or hydrogen ion exertion. This is again the same that RBCs are responsible for more of the buffering system, and then this pH is controlled by the respiratory system or the renal system. Primary acid-base disorder are respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis, metabolic acidosis, and the metabolic alkalosis. अच्छा जी, अब ये आपके समझने वाली बात है कि ये जो नीचे एक फॉर्मूला दिया हुआ है ये आप सारे नोट डाउन कर लें, जहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है प्राइमरी इवेंट. अभी आप सिर्फ प्राइमरी इवेंट देखें. रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस में को भी आप छोड़ दें, आप सिर्फ इस इक्वेशन को देखें जो नीचे लिखी हुई है, पीएच इज इक्वल टू PCO2 divided by PaCO2. If you understand this equation, you will understand what is happening into the body and what is the compensatory event. Simply due to the respiratory problems, like what can be their respiratory problem? जरा मुझे लिस्ट डाउन करके बताएंगे कि रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम्स कौन कौन सी हो सकती हैं चैट बॉक्स में. अभी हम कह रहे हैं ना कि कोई भी रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम जो है, एनी रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम, pH इज इक्वल टू HCO3 एंड PaCO2, ये हमने माइंड में रखना है फॉर्मूला. इसके मुताबिक हम ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं कि कौन सी रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है और उसका क्या रिस्पॉन्स होगा. एनी रेस्पिरेटरी इलनेस विच कैन लीड टू any illness which comes into your mind, respiratory, any respiratory illness, like there can be asthma, severe kind of the asthma, severe COPD, emphysema, ठीक, pneumonia, consolidation, ठीक है. सो बेटा एनी रेस्पिरेटरी इलनेस जो इतनी सीवियर है कि उसने बॉडी के अंदर कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की एक्सचेंज को हैम्पर कर दिया है, एनी डिजीज, ये भी हम सिर्फ रेस्पिरेटरी की प्रॉब्लम कर रहे हैं, जिसमें severe type of the asthma, severe COPD, severe emphysema, cystic fibrosis, which lead to the respiratory failure. Respiratory failure means the PaCO2 is increased because the lung is not capable of getting rid of this increased PaCO2 from the body. When this PaCO2 from the body is increased, and if you see into the primary event, ये जो equation लिखी हुई है कि pH is equal to bicarb divided by PaCO2. So if the PaCO2 is retained into the body or its level is increased into the body, it is inversely related to the pH. So if the PaCO2 is increased into the body, it will lead to the decreased pH into the body. Simple. अब ये जो होगा ये रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस कॉज कर देगा. ये अब ये PaCO2 किन किन वजह से रिटेन हो सकती है? द फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इज इफ द पेशेंट इज हैविंग any respiratory illness which hampers the getting rid of PaCO2. सेकेंड वो वाली डिजीजेस जो लंग्स को काम नहीं करने दे रही. कौन सी डिजीजेस होंगी जो लंग का काम नहीं करने दे रही? वो वाली डिजीजेस दैट डू नॉट अलाउज द लंग टू एक्सपैंड, लाइक thoracic trauma, CNS malformation, CNS diseases which hampers the central respiratory drive. So the CNS diseases which hampers the like the meningitis, encephalitis, okay, brain edema. These diseases prevent the function of the brain, that the nerve supply of the lung is affected in these conditions. Then the muscular problems like the Duchenne muscular dystrophy, myasthenia gravis. These all diseases prevent the muscles to work. So the fault is at the muscular end. Because of these all diseases, either it is due to the lung itself or it is due to the secondary diseases that lead to the respiratory muscle paralysis. Either it is due to the CNS involvement or the muscular involvement. They leads to the increased retention of the carbon dioxide within the blood. This increased carbon dioxide level into the blood will leads to the decreased into the pH. Now the body mechanism come into the action. And how this equation can be maintained if you cannot get rid of PaCO2. pH को नॉर्मल करने के लिए बॉडी बाइकार्ब का अगर लेवल ज्यादा कर दे तो pH नॉर्मल हो जाएगी. ऐसा ही है कि नहीं है? क्योंकि ये चीजें इनवर्सली रिलेटेड है एक दूसरे के साथ. सो PaCO2 तो बॉडी गेट रिड नहीं कर पा रही. सो व्हाट बॉडी डू इज वो किडनी को सिग्नल भेजती है कि HCO2 रिटेन करना शुरू कर दो. This HCO2 की retention is the compensation that leads to the pH ताकि renal buffer system काम करता है. वो PaCO2 से get rid नहीं कर पाता, लेकिन वो HCO3 का लेवल बढ़ाना शुरू कर देता है ताकि रिजल्टेंट pH नॉर्मल हो जाए. लेकिन अगर ये कंपनसेशन फेल हो जाए तो pH जो होती है वो ड्रॉप कर जाती है. तो अगर ये आपके पास इक्वेशन में PaCO2 भी हाई है, HCO3 भी हाई है, लेकिन pH स्टिल कम है, तो इट इज कॉल्ड एज डीकम्पनसेटेड रेस्पिरेटरी डेसिडोसिस. अगर ये दोनों काम करने के बाद pH नॉर्मल हो जाए तो इसे कहते हैं कंपनसेटेड रेस्पिरेटरी इवेंट. अगली वाली जो स्लाइड है उस पर यही चीजें सारी. अगली स्लाइड पे वही सारे रीजंस हैं जो अभी हमने देखे हैं. इन एडिशन टू दैट एक और चीज है जिसमें एक्सेस कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोडक्शन है, वो है सेप्सिस और बर्न, जिसमें कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की प्रोडक्शन इतनी ज्यादा हो जाती है कि एक लंग उससे गेट रिड नहीं हो पाता. तो इसकी वजह से रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस हो सकता है. रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस की ट्रीटमेंट क्या है जी? यू हैव टू ट्रीट द अंडरलाइंग कॉज टू इम्प्रूव द वेंटिलेशन, यू सपोर्ट द वेंटिलेशन एंड इलेक्ट्रोलाइट imbalance are corrected. Then occurs a metabolic acidosis. What happens into the metabolic acidosis? The body cannot, there are the two reasons. The first is that the patient is making more acid than its ability to excrete it. The second is the patient cannot excrete the bicarb level from the bicarb. So in this equation, what happened is bicarb is lowered into the body compared to the acid. Okay. This decrease into the bicarb level in this inverse proportion, again look at this infection, this equation will lead to the reduced pH into the body. This reduced pH due to the reduced bicarb level, now how the body will respond? The body will get rid of excess of PaCO2, that is the respiratory exchange. So the compensation to the metabolic acidosis is respiratory, that the patient excrete more and more of PaCO2 from the body. So these two come in a balance and the pHs get normalized. It is called as compensatory event into the compensated metabolic acidosis, जिसमें बायकार्ब भी कम हो और PCO2 भी कम एंड पीएच नॉर्मल हो. और अगर इफ इन दोनों के कम होने के साथ पीएच स्टिल बहुत कम है तो वी विल कॉल्ड इट एज decompensated metabolic acidosis. मेटाबॉलिक एसिडोसिस के साइड इफेक्ट पूरी बॉडी पे आते हैं, लाइक देयर इज हाइपरवेंटिलेशन और कॉस्मोस रेस्पिरेशन, शिफ्ट ऑफ हीमोग्लोबिन डिसोसिएशन कर्व टू द राइट, then the decrease to 3 dpg level in the red blood cell. Cardiovascular complication, arrhythmias are very common, and the load on the heart will be there, and the other are the, like in the chronic metabolic acidosis, will lead to the increased bone resorption and also the potassium shift from the intracellular to extracellular compartment. Similarly, the metabolic acidosis are treated with by treating the underlying cause and monitor the input output record, urine output, or the serum bicarbonate something can be given. अब हम चलते हैं देखने के लिए कि व्हाट इज मेटाबॉलिक अल्केलोसिस. तो द मेटाबॉलिक अल्केलोसिस अगर हम दोबारा देखें तो मेटाबॉलिक अल्केलोसिस में इस इन्फेक्शन में देखें देयर इज सम रीजन इन विच द पेशेंट इज इनेबल to get rid of HCO3 or there is an increased production of the HCO3. Both of these condition when the इस इक्वेशन में जब HCO3 का लेवल हाई हो जाएगा तो पीएच हाई हो जाएगी. अब इसको कंपनसेट करने के लिए लंग जो है वो PCO2 को रिटेन करना शुरू कर. जब PaCO2 रिटेन होना शुरू हो जाएगी तो ये दोनों इक्वेशन में बड़े हो जाएंगे और पीएच नॉर्मल हो जाएगी. दैट विल कॉल्ड एज कंपनसेटेड मेटाबॉलिक अल्केलोसिस. लेकिन अगर ये सिस्टम फेल हो जाए तो पीएच की कम पीएच ज़्यादा हो जाएगी और ये दोनों वैल्यूज भी ज़्यादा हो जाएंगी. तो दिस विल बी कॉल्ड एज decompensated metabolic alkalosis. So the different things which lead to the accumulation of HCO2 metabolic alkalosis are vomiting and excessive gastric suction, loss of potassium due to the steroid and diuretic, and overuse of antacids. रेस्पिरेटरी एल्कोलोसिस कैसे हो सकती है? रेस्पिरेटरी एल्कोलोसिस में पेशेंट PaCO2 ज़्यादा बॉडी से एक्सक्रीट कर देता है जिसकी वजह से HCO2 बॉडी में रिटेन होना ज़्यादा होना शुरू हो जाएगी कंपेयर टू PaCO2. सो द pH विल बी हाई. So what you can do, what the body do is it also decreases the level of HCO3 into the body through kidney के pH को maintain कर सकें. So it is called as compensated, or if pH is not maintained, it is called as decompensated respiratory alkalosis. अब वो वाली कंडीशन जो बॉडी से एक्सेसिव PaCO2 निकाल देती हैं, एक तो साइकोसिस हो गया जिसमें पेशेंट हाइपर वेंटिलेट करता है. देन देयर कम द फीवर, एक्सट्रीम एंजाइटी, साइकोसिस, स्ट्रेस, पेन, hypoxia. Initial stages of hypoxia, the patient is hyperventilated in that condition, and so the PaCO2 level is reduced. Salicylate overdose, hypoxemia, CNS trauma can lead to the respiratory alkalosis. Treatment is again the cause of the this respiratory acid alkalosis is usually seen, and then try to compensate it or try to recover the and try to treat the patient of the underlying disease. Assist the patient to breathe more slowly, breathe in a paper bag or apply a breathing mask. लेकिन ये सिर्फ कंडीशन उस कंडीशन में की जाती हैं जब पेशेंट जो है हाइपर वेंटिलेट कर रहा हो. अदरवाइज अगर कोई और मेटाबॉलिक रीजन नीचे मौजूद है तो इन चीज़ों से पेशेंट का रेस्पिरेटरी एल्कोलोसिस नहीं होगा. इसी तरह समटाइम द पेशेंट में नीड sedation to decrease the respiratory drive. Again the metabolic acidosis, metabolic alkalosis जो है इसके साथ बाज़ औक़ात हाइपोकैलीमिया भी डेवलप हो जाता है, हाइपोकैल्सीमिया डेवलप हो जाता है जिसकी वजह से बच्चे पेशेंट को टेटनी होना शुरू हो जाती है. So every patient present with the tetany should be evaluated for the hyperglycemia. ओके बच्चों, यहाँ तक ही आपका ये आज का लेक्चर था जो काफ़ी लेंथी था. थैंक यू सो मच. कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आप बताएं. जी बच्चों, कोई क्वेश्चन है तो बताइए. ओके जी, खुदा हाफिज़.